Well, how about this beautiful day? Watkinsville, Georgia, Oconee County, not too far from Athens and not too far from where my wife and I live, right here in Watkinsville. And with all the talk that's been going on the past year plus about buying and selling property and land, I thought this month I got to introduce you to a friend and a professional that knows a thing or two about that. And that's Mr. Eddie Thaxton. Hey, Mr. Eddie.
How are you, sir?
I'm doing so great. Mr. Eddie is an associate real estate broker here in Oconee County, lived here your whole life. One of the few, I guess, relative natives right here at this place. And you are a legend around here. I'm not going to lie to you. So many people talk about Mr. Eddie. Sold us our house 4 years ago. So, Mr. Eddie, I've been driving down the road and I saw this piece of property for sale. And I saw this beautiful building, this turkey barn here. And there are some things that get my attention and I'm excited about. What would you say about a building like this, very common to see along the road? What are some things that excite you or worry you about this kind of building?
Well, first of all, it's old. It was built, these were built back in the 60s. So they're a lot smaller than, say, normal poultry houses or broiler houses are today. And so the use of this is probably no longer exists as far as poultry. Storage in these buildings are very limited because of the height of them. And so you can't get a tractor in them like we have today. And so that's some limitation. It's just getting older. I mean, the roofs are getting older, and so it's probably done reached the end of its life.
And you know, it's so interesting to hear you say that. I would have never thought about the height of this building. I would have thought, well, sure, I can put a tractor in here, but as you mentioned, it's just about 8 feet tall. No way a tractor is going to get in here, so something to worry about. How about that roof up there?
Well, it's a metal tin roof. It's a 5V10, which is very popular, and people using those in older buildings for decoration. Sometimes you see them put them on the ceilings and walls, and there's some value to that. I've heard anywhere from $1 to $2 per linear foot, you know, and so there is a little value. Not going to get rich selling it, but it may help offset the cost of demolishing it.
So that could be something we think about. You see a building like this, too short to store stuff in. Let's think about selling that tin, getting some income from that. We're looking at this, well, what is this, Mr. Eddie, if I don't know?
This is a propane tank. This is very, very popular in the rural area. We don't have natural gas in the rural area of Oconee, and so you have to use propane. Propane was used to heat these houses back when we had turkeys in them. And so, and you'll see these a lot of times behind rural houses.
Okay.
But we've sort of evolved around gas and going more to heat pumps in residential houses, so you don't see them quite as often. They are a little bit of a liability as far as leakage and maybe possible if a fire was close by, it could cause some problems. But it's got the safety devices on it, which would normally take care of any issues there.
Well, and that's something to think about. Not only that tank, but as we're going to go to another building here next, some other questions that come up. You mentioned liability. I want to talk about that next. So let's head to another beautiful barn and talk there. Okay, so what you're looking at there is not far from that turkey house that we were just standing in front of and talking about. Mr. Eddie, that berm right there, it's just interesting looking to me. What is that? Why does it look that way?
Well, back in the 60s and early 70s, there were no lowboy trailers around like we have today with ramps. So when you had to move a tractor from one farm to another, you loaded it on a flatbed truck. So you just you backed the flatbed truck on there and then drove it up on it. So that's what that's used for.
And folks may see that when they're out looking at property and say, what is that? Yeah. That also,
it is strange looking sitting
there.
Yeah,
well, it reminded me, is there something under it? I mean, a body, I don't know, but is there a tank? We talked about that propane tank. What about tanks underground?
Well, obviously there could be a tank there. One of the signs for underground tank is usually there's some pipes that come up, and you can have a diesel tank, you can have a gasoline tank, you can have propane tank. So there's all different type of tanks. One thing a seller's supposed to do is disclose anything that's underground that's not visibly you can see it. So hopefully the seller has provided you with that information, and then you can decide what you want to do about it. Dig them up and do a soil test and check and see if there's been any leakage over the years.
Well, either they're going to do it or Mr. Eddie and Ranger Nick are going to tell them to do it. So right. I'm spinning you around here. I want to talk about this wonderful structure. So what you were saying before, the height, okay, now it concerns me. Now that I know it might be too short. But in the late fall, we're looking at this pile of stuff. Talk to me about that. I'm interested.
It's common on farms today that just stuff gets accumulated. Those pipes have been laying there probably 25 years. And so just watch for just junk in houses or in sheds and barns and stuff. And try to make the cellar, get them cleaned up.
Clean that up. And if they go to do that in that late summer, early fall time, that's the time for some of those venomous snakes, like timber rattlesnakes in the southeast. They're out breeding and doing stuff. And when you're moving those, be on the lookout for sure. Well, so much great information today that we've learned about some of these buildings and things to think about on a piece of property. And I love this piece of property, but Mr. Eddie, some other things that I should worry about, question, think about before I maybe make an offer on this. What would you say?
Well, several things. Conservation use, that's a state where if you've got 10 or more acres, you can put it in a program that it exists for 10 years, and then you can renew it every 10 years. And what that does, it really reduces the local property tax on the property. And it's a real good thing, but there's some stipulations and qualifications that you have to go through to be in that program. And then there's also USDA offers a program, conservation easement, where they'll actually essentially buy the property. You maintain the ownership, and every piece of property is a little bit different what they'll pay you. But it's going to be in agriculture from now on. It can never be taken out. And so that could possibly create problems with future inheritance and stuff like that. But you can still sell it if you want to. So if somebody wants a recreational property or an ag piece of property to use strictly for agriculture, that's a perfect piece of property. Now they won't sell as much as an open fair market value property, but it's a wonderful piece of property to buy. And there's a lot of stipulations on that. Like for instance, if a interstate wanted to come through there, well, it can never happen, or a county road or a state road. And so it'll always from now on be in agriculture.
And those are things to know about, that is for sure.
And that for sure preserves the property from now on. It will always be agriculture.
This is stuff I hope you have learned so much as I have. Mr. Eddie, thanks for today.
All right.
It's such a pleasure to hang out with you as always.
Yes,
and folks, I hope you've enjoyed this as much as I have. You all know what to do. While you're online checking out some more things about real estate and properties and things, hop on over to the Ranger Nick Facebook page and check that out. Until next time, for the Farm Monitor, as I always say, I'm Ranger Nick, reminding you that enthusiasm is contagious. So pass it on. Y'all, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you right back here again this time next month. See ya.